Hello, welcome to the Digital Orphanage. This episode, we continue with part 4 of our Amiga 2000 series. In parts 1, 2 and 3, we looked at 2 Amiga 2000 computers from the Museum of Computing in Swindon, refurbished their power supplies and then repaired the motherboard from the first of the Amiga 2000s. In this episode, we bring together all of the components from the first computer and see what it has to offer. With a nice clean motherboard and PSU, it would be a shame to put them back in a dirty case, so there's even more Amiga pampering to be done. So let's go over to the bench and get started.
We start with a light brush and vacuum, and a few tweaks to correct the card slots. Some might wonder who would see these cork feet, but they've moved and I've seen them. A hot air gun on a low setting is ideal to soften the glue without damaging the paintwork. A little IPA then removes the residue. One foot doesn't appear to have moved, so I can use that as a reference. With an even spray coat of contact adhesive, it's a simple task to line up with my pencil marks. Leaving the case feet downwards allows the weight of the case to apply pressure until the glue dries. Back inside the case, multi-surface polish removes dirt and gives protection to the metal. A nice clean motherboard in a nice clean case. Which makes these disk drives and frame look very sad. Many screws are missing, so I need to find replacements. It does make the strip down easier though. The additional drive uses long screws and these thick washers. The original drive is held in place with motherboard standoffs. Both drives need a clean, and as both are almost identical, I'll just show the process on one. There are 3 screws that need to be removed, one on the top and one on either side. Removing the fascia needs gentle pressure on the tabs. The standoffs need removing too, if the drive has them. Allowing the drive to be slid out of its case. I'll remove the eject button too for cleaning. The drive has a few capacitors, which I'll replace if needed. These look fine though. There are 2 drive heads to clean, and I'll also clean the spindle. The drive isn't too dusty, but a gentle brush helps. As does cleaning the old lubricant from the worm drive. IPA again is used to gently clean both heads, along with the spindle. Don't forget to put some lubricant back on the worm drive though. Each case gets a clean and a polish too, along with a few tweaks to straighten connector pins. Warm soapy water and an old toothbrush is your friend when cleaning textured plastic. I'm cleaning and protecting all the metalwork with polish. All dressed up with somewhere to go. The rust mites have been at some of the metalwork though, and more than polish is needed. A fine sanding board makes short work of the rust, and a liberal coat of wax helps to protect. When I need replacement screws, I feel vindicated for all the screws I keep from junk equipment. I can usually find something pretty close to the original. It's great having everything secured correctly, with every screw it was meant to have. With all the cables in place, before I go any further, it's good to know that both drives are functioning well. Remember from part 1, this Amiga had 3 expansion cards, a hard drive card with 2 MB RAM, a memory card with another 2MB RAM, and a scan doubler with flicker fixer for the video slot. A little pampering is recommended though, with a light brush and cleaned contacts. There are again a few electrolytic capacitors, and this time I decided to replace them, as these components will be used all the time the computer is on. It's good to see everything coming back together. The scan doubler thankfully came with a 15-pin adapter for a normal VGA monitor. One last task is to check the memory is still good, and it is here that we hit a problem. Diagrom detects the memory and passes both cards. Amiga Test Kit also detects the memory on both cards. However, although it passes the memory on the hard drive card, it locks up as soon as it tests the 2MB memory card. The memory card is also running a lot warmer than the memory on the hard drive card in front of it. Testing the memory card by itself makes no difference. Strangely, Workbench shows the memory is over 13MB. So I put the card to one side and continue with just the hard drive card and its memory. This gives us 3MB to play with before Workbench takes its share. And does the hard disk work? Well, yes, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? However, this MIDI card gives us an idea of what software we might expect to find. It appears homemade and is coated to either protect or to hide what is on the board. A connector goes to the internal serial port header on the motherboard and is handily labelled. There's an in, through and out, along with a switch to disable it. It's missing one retaining bolt though, but that's easy to replace from my stash. Also in my stash, I have plenty of card slot covers. This Amiga 2000 is missing a lot of them, so I find something close to what it would have come with. Hopefully this will help keep out the bugs that made the motherboard their home. Much smarter. But it won't be with this grubby looking case. Unfortunately, corrosion has flaked off the paint in places. The plastic front is removed for washing, and the dirt and corrosion removed with a gentle cream cleaner. It really needs either touching in or a complete respray, but for the moment I'll protect the metalwork with a car polish and make do. The front panel cleans up well though, and has only minor dings. But this machine is missing the 5¼ inch drive bay cover. I don't have a spare, and I don't have a 3D printer, but I do have some from a variety of old PC cases. This one has nice large tabs I can modify, because in an Amiga 2000 the blanking plate is screwed and not clipped. It's a loose fit, but as long as it's central it should look fine. My plan is to bend the tabs so I can screw them in place. Again, the hot air rework station with its temperature control is great for this, allowing a low, localized heat to soften, not burn the ABS plastic, which with some filing makes some usable tabs. Careful measuring is required to ensure the drilled holes are in the right place for the blanking plate to be central. It's not the correct colour, but it does match the painted metal and doesn't look out of place. This Amiga 2000 isn't going to win beauty contests, but as a handling machine for visitors in the museum it will be perfect. With replacement screws inside, I freed up enough original case screws to replace the horrible looking modern PC screws holding the case on. So what was this Amiga used for? Well, let's connect it up to the capture card, boot it up, and take a look. Straight away we can see the reason for the MIDI card with Music X and Dr. T's installed. We've also got Aegis Sonic for making music with good old Paula, along with software like PenPal, WordPerfect, the Deluxe series and XCAD. Whoever owned this had serious creative intentions on their mind. Scrolling across, we add to the MIDI music count with Bars and Pipes Professional. I, of course, head straight for the games, to test the computer obviously. Beating the Amiga fair and square at Othello. I don't remember Black Crypt, and its music made with a sample I'm sure was very common. It's a Dungeon Master style dungeon crawler from Electronic Arts. I never really got into this style of games on the Amiga, although they were popular. Turn-based hacking and slashing, and wandering. And more wandering, a maze of empty corridors, being mystically transported to add to the confusion. Until you're so hungry, you'll eat any old ham that's been lying on the ground for who knows how long. Finally being put out of your misery by a carelessly placed hole, killing most of your party on impact with the floor below, and placing you directly in the path of a two-headed ogre. Doesn't seem fair, really. The hard disk has what looks like the software for a PC bridge board installed. This might explain the missing 5¼ drive bay cover, if it was removed before the machine was donated to the museum. Before Microsoft Word was a thing, most of the business world used WordPerfect, and even the Amiga had a version. But software like PenPal took more advantage of the Amiga's WYSIWYG OS. An old letter gives me clues as to the previous owner, someone who lived in the same town as the museum. Of course Deluxe Paint is installed, but nothing more than the bundled test files are to be found. The first of the MIDI programs is Music X. I had a look around but couldn't find anything worth showing. And the learning curve with it and Dr. T's seems quite steep. Aegis Sonics is a lot more accessible, and any control you play with yields instant feedback. But I still want to test the MIDI ports, and with bars and pipes it has an interface that I immediately understood. MIDI notes feed through pipes with stop taps to enable or disable them, exiting through a graphical MIDI socket on a particular channel. I have a simple MIDI keyboard, and I figure if I change all the channels to 1, it could play all the parts of this sample track using one instrument. Through the Amiga, pressing play serves only a metronome. But plug in a MIDI device, and magic happens. I haven't found anything that I think the original owner composed. Maybe they just tinkered, or maybe they deleted everything of note. I'll back up the hard disk before I reinstall for display, which I can later examine with WinUAE. In part 5 we look at the second of the Amiga 2000s, and that one's got an accelerator card. So I hope you'll join me for that. Take care, and goodbye.